Okay, we're live. Welcome everyone at home. Welcome everyone here. Thanks for coming out on this rainy, chilly evening. And I have a couple things planned for this evening, but the first one I like for us to start out with a sort of grounding or a small meditation exercise. And for this evening, I think we'll do, and I don't think any of you have done this one before, so you'll all be in the same boat. This one is called sending and taking, or sometimes I think it's called sending and receiving. And there are lots of different kinds of meditations. I try to give you guys a taste of a little bit of everything so you can pick what works best for you. And this one, sometimes people have a difficult time with it. So see if you can keep an open heart and an open mind. And this is supposed to, it fits perfectly with our talk tonight because it's supposed to help promote the feeling of connectedness with others. And that the idea that we're not connected or that we're separate from others is actually an illusion, and it is part of what causes us more pain than pretty much anything else. And that's a lot of what Marianne Williamson talks about in her writings, and that's what the Course in Miracles is about. The dream and the pain of separation or feeling separate or isolated from other people. So the way that there are lots of different, in the instructions for this meditation, you can get really old-fashioned or traditional, but really all this exercise is about is identifying the fact that we share lots of the same pains with other people. So sadness and grief and anger and loss and sickness and physical illness and aging and all these things we share in common as human beings. And this is a way of helping build the physical structure inside of our body, in our brain, that helps us feel more connected because we are actually connected. Now, the first part is pretty easy. It's noticing our own pain. So you could notice what is a challenge that you're having lately or having recently, whether it's loneliness or physical pain, or it could be frustration or anger or whatever your particular challenge feels like it is today or this week. And all you're going to do, just to start out, is feel your chair. Feel your feet in your shoes. Your eyes can be open or closed, doesn't matter. And as you feel yourself arriving here in the room, fully inhabiting your body, think about that challenge or that pain that you're having. And imagine that you are breathing in that pain, whatever it is. With the in-breath, you're breathing it in. And with the out-breath, you're breathing, giving to yourself, sending to yourself the opposite of whatever that pain or that challenge is. So if it's physical pain, then it would be the absence of pain. If it's anger, then you would send to yourself instead love. If it's sadness, you'd breathe out to yourself joy. If it's loneliness, then you would breathe in the feeling of loneliness or the thought of loneliness and breathe out to yourself the feeling of connection. And you don't have to be rigid about it. If you miss a breath, that's okay. So when you notice an in-breath, You can breathe in the pain or the challenge. And then when you notice the next out breath, you imagine sending with that out breath, you're sending yourself the opposite. So whatever the challenge is, you breathe it in and exhale, sending yourself relief of whatever that is. Not working too hard or changing your breathing in any way. You're just noticing what that's like to breathe in your own pain and breathe out relief to yourself. And now, if it's not too uncomfortable for you, I'd like you to imagine that there's someone else out there, you either know them or you don't, who's experiencing the exact same pain that you're having a challenge with today or this week or in this moment. Somewhere else, someone on the earth shares your pain. And you're going to imagine breathing in your pain with their pain or their challenge, and breathing out to yourself and to them relief in the form of the opposite. If it's too difficult, then you just do it for yourself. Just keep breathing in your own pain and breathing out relief to yourself. And you might notice the feeling of the chair beneath you and the feeling of your feet on the ground. Breathing in your pain along with someone else's, and breathing out the opposite, exhaling the gift of relief to yourself and whoever that other person is who's feeling the same thing. And then finally, if you can do this step, then follow along. And if not, you just continue breathing in for yourself and giving yourself the gift of relief with the exhale. See if you can expand your breathing in to include everyone, everywhere, all beings everywhere who share the same pain as you feel. Imagine breathing in yours and their pain, and breathing out the gift to them and yourself of relief, the opposite. Whatever the opposite is of that pain, breathe it out to yourself and to them. And if there's resistance, you don't have to fight it. You just go back to breathing in your own pain and breathing relief to yourself. Taking in with the in-breath your own pain and that of everyone who shares it. And breathing out to yourself and all beings everywhere the gift of relief in the form of the opposite of that pain. Continuing to stay connected to the chair and to the feeling of your feet. And then as we reach the end of this meditation, you can take in one final breath and give one final gift with your exhale. And then just relax, coming back into the room. So sometimes this meditation, this is called Tonglen, Tonglen, and it's one of the types of meditation that has been studied a lot when they put monks in brain scanners to see what's going on, what's making them so peaceful and so cheerful. Okay. Kind of defies understanding, right? We're breathing in pain. How does that make us peaceful? Right? And I know my initial reaction when I learned this meditation the first time was, oh, I don't want to breathe in other people's pain. Oh. But that is coming from our conditioned place of, I want to separate myself from the yucky stuff, right? I'm an island. I want to protect myself, keep myself in my bubble, and keep everybody else's yucky stuff out. And the truth is that we are all so intimately connected in ways that we don't realize that the idea we can keep out other people's yucky stuff is actually an illusion. And trying to remain separate or keep ourselves separate actually causes us probably the majority of the pain that we experience. When we feel connected, there's a great deal of peace and security that comes from that. And the research is very clear. We don't actually have to have tons of friends. It's the perception that matters. Whether we feel connected, whether we feel like there are people out there who know us, care about us, that we could rely on or call if we needed to. We don't actually have to be talking to them every day to benefit from connection. It's the perception that matters. This book that I keep talking about and reading about, called The Body Keeps the Score by Bessel van der Kolk. It's about trauma, but in it, there's a lot of neuroscience. And the thing that I'm really struck by as he goes through every single aspect of the how to address trauma and what it looks like and what it does to us, is the importance of connection. So basically, as mammals, we are not wired to be islands. We're wired to live in groups, to be in interdependent groups. So when you think about other mammals, they don't really fare that well in isolation either, right? Dogs and cats and monkeys and alpacas and, I mean, these animals actually do better. They thrive when they're with other animals like themselves. And if they can't come up with, right, if they don't have a companion of their own kind, I mean, I'm sure you've all seen YouTube videos of unlikely pairings, right? Birds and dogs and monkeys and dogs and, right? Animals that hook up because there's the opportunity there to be connected. We are wired in our brains to feel without below our conscious awareness, to be able to feel and mirror the states of other people. So when somebody's really sad and we're like, ooh, right? Downer, bringing me down. That's because our brains are wired to read and give us a sense of what somebody else's state is like. So we can try to be separate or distant or not connected, but there's stuff going on below our conscious awareness that we're not really in control of that keeps us connected. And there are good reasons for that. Our survival until very recently has depended on that. Has depended on being in groups, being parts of tribes. One of the worst, until recently, where it became easy to just live alone, it was one of the worst things that could happen to you, to be kicked out of the tribe, to have to go fare on your own out there in the wilderness. Right? Everybody had to work together to survive. So we don't realize it, but we're connected whether we like it or not. And even in physics, there are constantly experiments going on where they are discovering that everything is really made of energy. Everything's always moving and it's all connected and it's pretty much indistinguishable from each other. Whatever matter is, everything is just waves of energy and continuous movement. Even a rock, it looks like it's a static thing, but it's moving. Everything has a vibration, and those frequencies of vibration are felt by and affect other people and things. So even though our ways of knowing depend on really big impacts, our brain isn't quite sophisticated enough to hold all that abstractness of connection in our minds while we're going through our days. We kind of have to remind ourselves of connection. And sometimes people who've meditated for a really long time or had big like kundalini experiences, inner shifts, will have these experiences of viscerally, like out of their eyes and in their gut. They're like, it's all one, right? All of it. They see the interconnectedness of every single thing. And it's an experience that lasts forever, even though like the memory of that, the knowing of that lasts forever, even though they can't maintain that, right? You can't be merged with everything and drive down the highway or try to have a conversation with people. That would be very surreal. But every now and then we can have glimpses of that connectedness, the oneness of everything. And when we meditate, we help our brains get closer to being able to feel that way, to operate that way more of the time, to feel at peace and to feel connected to other people instead of seeing just differences all the time. Because the similarities actually exceed the differences, but our experiences vary. So the lens that we take life in through is slightly different for each and every one of us. And we've got this shared language thing that when I say dog, everybody has an idea about a creature with 4 legs and a tail. But dog is just a concept. And so everybody's image that pops into their heads might be slightly different. Somebody might be, oh, dogs, and somebody might be, oh, dogs, right? Everybody's got a slightly different twist on whatever concept it is. And it sometimes leads us to think that there's no connection there. Just because our words can't describe accurately our inner experience. They're inadequate. Words are inadequate to describe what's actually going on inside, right? And so then, if we can't tell someone exactly, get just the right words to tell them what's going on inside of us, it feels like we can't make them understand exactly what our experience is in that moment. And that they can't understand. That must be, right? And what kinds of things do we think about that? They don't care, or they're clueless, or they're bad, right? If somebody can't see me. But if we look closely, we'll see that most of that is driven by fear. Right? We're about as afraid of not being seen as we are being actually seen. Right? What happens if somebody really sees the real me? Right? What if I totally let my guard down and I just totally be myself? Then what? Right? It's what we all crave. We crave to be able to move through the world that way, and at the same time we're terrified of it. There's a social worker in Texas named Brene Brown, and she's got a couple of videos on the TED website, a couple of TED Talks. TED stands for Technology, Entertainment, Design, and there's lots of brilliant people on there talking about amazing things, and they're short talks, and they're usually pretty entertaining because you don't get to have a TED Talk if you're boring. And she has 2 videos I recommend when people watch them, they watch them in order. But she talks about this very thing, how we crave connection because that's what we're wired for. And at the same time, for some of us, that's absolutely terrifying. We can't tolerate it. And that becomes the problem or the thing for us to focus on, is this conflict between wanting to be seen and having to put on a face, having to put on a front to protect ourselves. Elizabeth Lesser, who's another favorite author of mine, she has a book called, oh my gosh, I think it just escaped me. Okay, I can see the book. I think it's on my shelf. She has a book about grief. Oh, Broken Open. It's called Broken Open. And she has a little chapter called Bozos on the Bus. And the essence of that little chapter is basically that we're all hiding behind our facade or our mask, thinking that everyone else is okay and we're not. And they're all hiding behind their masks, and that's why they look okay. And so everybody's terrified to let down the mask because everybody thinks everybody else is doing just fine. Right? And she says, wouldn't it be great if we could all just let down the mask and admit that we're all just bozos on the bus? We're just all going for a ride, right? Scenery's different for some of us, depending on where you sit on the bus. But lots of things are similar about the trip for all of us. Imagine what that would be like if everyone could just let down the facade and just be. And really just, I'm so struck by how every single thing in here really focuses on, and he distills it down to whether or not we can feel connected. That's the main issue with trauma, is that it does things to our brain that disconnect us from other people, that keep us from feeling connected. So depression, anxiety, panic are some things that make us feel connected. Hypervigilance, paranoia, um, seeing danger everywhere, right? Misreading. Trauma makes us misread the reactions of other people. We're constantly looking. So that part of our system that is trying to keep us safe is on overdrive. It's constantly scanning for danger. And mindfulness practices and meditation practices help shrink those parts of the brain that are overactive and always looking for danger, and grow those parts of the brain that help us know who we are and be able to connect with other people. So there continue to be tons of good reasons to practice mindfulness. If nothing else, we can't really let ourselves be seen without having some idea of who we are, right? That feels uncomfortable. If we don't even know who we are, how do we connect with other people? The Course in Miracles is it's a big blue book that is basically a mind training course. So there's the text part, and then there's a workbook, and there's a lesson every single day for 365 days. And people will do that workbook over and over, or do parts of it, or repeat parts of it, and just keep working at it. Because what is supposed to happen when you successfully complete that course is a shift in perception, a shift away from the idea of being a separate, tiny, scared, vulnerable little me, toward being someone that is able to move authentically and freely, and feels and knows that they are connected everywhere and always to everything. And that anytime they feel pain, they know it's because the veil, the illusion of separation has come in. And they kind of went into a trance for a moment. We're not awake for a moment. And there's great relief in that, in realizing that you're not alone. Even if you live alone, even if you don't feel like you have a lot of friends or a lot of social support, just the idea, just the knowing that you really are connected everywhere with everyone and always, even when it doesn't feel like it. That can be a great relief. And if, go ahead.
I was just going to ask, is it possible to have connection and have connection and know you do, but still feel disconnected?
Sure.
And not in all areas, but in, like, can it be selective? Like, some areas you don't feel like you can connect and some you do?
Sure. Mm. So you just notice those areas. And if you're aware of that, then maybe there's something there to notice. Just trying to think what. There was one more thought I wanted to share. So sometimes this stuff can be confusing because I have to use words. And so I'm really only just pointing at something and hoping that we're all pointing in our heads at the same thing. So I want to open the floor for other questions that anybody might have, or any other thoughts anybody might have about this topic. Sometimes your thoughts are other people's thoughts and can help if you have a question or a thought.
Maybe you kind of said this already, but what is the benefit of, I understand the benefit of connection, but of all being one, what is the benefit of feeling each other's pain or happiness or joy, or what is the benefit? I mean, obviously there's benefit of, if you're feeling someone else's joy, then you might be joyful, but like the negative stuff, if I was going to work on trying to grasp that, what can I use to convince my mind that that's
Okay.
a good idea?
Okay. So I think it's useful to always kind of investigate where that question comes from. So the way that you frame that question has some meaning. So when the question comes from a place of, yes, please, I'll take the good stuff, and no, thank you, right? We know that comes from ego. That's that movement, that internal movement. It's just energy, a movement that says, I want and I don't want. Right? It's automatic. It constricts or contracts against things we don't like, and it grabs onto and tries to hang on to and make things last that we like or want or feel good. So the question sounded a little bit like it comes from that place, that energetic movement of I want. So I want to talk to your heart right now, that authentic part of you that knows experience as good and bad is just stuff that comes and goes. And what your heart is really interested in is connection, feeling connected to other people. That's everybody's heart's desire, to feel and be connected. And And so feeling the good and the bad, sharing other people's pain, is all connection. All of it. Ego says, I only want to share the good with people. But the real us, the place of love, our heart's desire, our authentic self, just wants to be connected. It doesn't care about that stuff. Connection is deeper than the stuff that we connect over or through. So, what if joy and sorrow are just vehicles? They're just tools that help us relate to other people and feel connected. They're not the point. Right? Yeah. Because if you go below, go a little bit deeper. So the joy and pain are the stuff on the surface, the waves of the ocean. You go a little bit deeper than that. All those people that you share joy and pain with, below that, all that, it's just connection. And you could feel, if you imagine going beneath the waves to the deeper part, how stable that feels, how peaceful, how calm. It's just connection. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So, unless there are other questions, we'll take a little break, like 5 minutes, and then come back and have guided meditation. Okay. There's a restroom there, and there's a restroom out here, and we'll turn our phones off when we come back. Okay. So make sure when you come back, you find a chair that's really comfortable. If you can't find a chair that's comfortable enough, let me know, and I can look for some others. Test out whatever's in here. There is a meditation cushion here for anybody who's bold enough to wanna. I don't sit cross-legged on the floor anymore. It's called Zazen. I don't sit Zazen anymore, but you're welcome to if you want to. And I see you brought your yoga mat. If people have pain issues,
I didn't know what it was going to be like, so
yeah,
I brought it.
That's cool. Sometimes people want to lie down if they have pain issues and they can't sit for 20 minutes or 24 minutes. But in general, when people first start to meditate, lying down is a really good way to just fall asleep in the first 5 minutes, which is not usually, if that's what you want to do, that's cool. And some people, that is all they want to do. They just want to be able to fall asleep. But if you want to meditate, I recommend staying upright. And preferably leaning back on the chair is fine, but even if you have something to lean your head on, that's not a good idea either. That can promote sleep. Okay. What's the temperature like in here for all you guys? Could it be warmer?
I think it's good.
Okay. Okay. I have blankets, if people want blankets.
Have you been watching, or has anyone been watching that Super Soul Sunday with Elizabeth Gilbert?
Oh no!
She was doing. I'm behind. I DVR'd it, but she did, I think, 3 episodes.
I
watched the first one, and she said the coolest thing. I don't know if it'll strike anyone. It struck me, but she said something about like making our demons, or she realized that she made her demons bigger than they were. and that was a huge problem for her, is that she made them huge, and then all of a sudden she realized that they were just the little orphan parts of herself.
Mm.
And once she could view them like that, they weren't so scary anymore, and they couldn't control her anymore, because
Oh.
I don't know, it was just, I don't know, just one of those. I get that.
Yeah,
It was really good.
that's
I
nice.
took it.
Thanks for sharing. It reminds me there was a little section I was going to read from here. Maybe we can start our meditation off with that.
It starts third, maybe third or fourth. I know. Right.
Do you guys have any meditation experience?
Mm-mm.
Zero? Okay. All right. Uh-huh.
Like a
Yeah.
I get distracted super easily.
Yeah.
I feel like I meditate kind of all the time naturally. Like when I'm trying to focus on something, I start thinking of other things, but
Mhm.
not like calm meditation.
Yeah.
It's like all these just thoughts.
I'm going to read a little section from this that he talks about just that. And I think other people will like that too. Talks about exactly that thing that you're talking about.
Gosh, so much trash. Just totally
Like I just love reading like inspirational things.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, you must just really see that. You must have just really needed to.
It can be whatever,
So now
like,
my question is,
like a candle,
that statement,
whatever,
you
like,
must have just
like,
really,
you want to do coffee.
is it just,
You know,
it's a lot.
And then you just have that
I-
time with
I
the
mean, that's what I'm
candle,
starting to
and
grab.
she tells her, she's like,
Like,
when you look
What
at
I
a candle,
probably,
what's
or
their
here's another
type of choice?
times that when
And there's
something's
the third C, you
hard,
get a communication piece, and
and
she's
you
telling you,
choose
whatever it
not
is,
to pay attention to it.
thinking about that you want to look for it in it.
So,
Mhm.
sing a song or distract yourself.
Other things in your mind,
At what
clear away,
point,
and
when do you?
I don't know.
Because it seems
Yeah.
like
So,
really
It's pretty cool.
yeah, sounds like it works for her. I think everybody's different in what works for them. And so
I could
you find the things that resonate for you. I really trust people's inner guide, what reading they're attracted to, what activities they're attracted to, almost always are just the next thing for them, right? If there's too much resistance to something, it's not going anywhere. I can recommend all the great books in the world, but
It was also
if
a
it's,
distraction.
if you try to read it and it's
I'm
like,
not saying I'm not
boring or not resonating, or your mind kind of
I'm just wondering.
is spinning, that's not helpful.
I guess
So
the question is,
you want to try and find
when, how
what's the
much
thing that's
that-
helpful for you, and not assume that it's the thing forever. There's always
how do
what's
you know
what's
when
helpful
you
for me
get
right
when
now,
it's distracting?
because that might shift, that might change.
Like, what's the signal that this is?
So we have enough time that I think I can read this little section that talks about the thing that you're talking about. Everybody comments about the mind wandering, and it's not something that goes away. I mean, we're human beings, so this is a feature of being human. But getting to know it and developing a practice of helping ourselves be more and more in focused awareness is that's the point. That's what we're trying to do here, is to practice it and to keep coming back over and over again to being present, being in a state of focused awareness. This is Stephen Batchelor. The book is called Buddhism Without Beliefs, and it's a really lovely book, and easy to read, and written in a lot of first person, where he's talking about it as though he's doing it, and so it's easy to follow along and identify. So at the beginning, he says, I open the refrigerator to discover that I have no milk, and so decide to go down to the store to get some. I shut the door behind me, turn left into the street, follow the sidewalk for 2 blocks, turn left and left again, enter the store, snatch a carton of milk from the shelf, pay for it at the checkout, leave the store, turn right and right again, go back along the sidewalk for 2 blocks, turn right, unlock the door, and go back into the kitchen. The only evidence I have that any of this has happened is the cold carton of milk now clutched rather too firmly in my hand. As I try to reconstruct those 10 vanished minutes, I recall being engrossed in a memory of something S said to me yesterday that I have been shrugging off ever since. It irked me and has become lodged as a stab of disquiet somewhere in the upper part of my stomach. I can remember that as I walked along, I was absorbed in what I should have said when the remark was made, and what I would say were it repeated. The exact words of my response escape me, but I recall feeling gratified by their sharp blend of insouciance and cruelty, confirmed in my imagination by the look of fear on S's face as he is pinned to a rough wooden floor. As for the first chill hint of winter and the gust of wind that sent the last withered leaves scratching along the sidewalk before me as I pulled my warm collar tight against the skin of my neck, I have no recollection. And although I was staring intently in S's direction, I failed to notice the waving arm of my friend perched on his bicycle across the street, his call and whistle, his smile as he rode off when the light turned green. Much of our time is spent like this. As we become aware of it, we begin to suspect that we are not entirely in control of our lives. Much of the time we are driven by a relentless and insistent surge of impulses. We notice this in quiet moments of reflection, but usually just get carried along on the crest of its wave, until, that is, we crash once more onto the rocks of recriminatory self-consciousness, and from there into moods and depressions. One of the most difficult things to remember is to remember to remember. Awareness begins with remembering what we tend to forget. Drifting through life on a cushioned surge of impulses is but one of many strategies of forgetting. Not only do we forget to remember, we forget that we live in a body with senses and feelings and thoughts and emotions and ideas. Worrying about what a friend said can preoccupy us so completely that it isolates us from the rest of our experience. The world of colors and shapes, sounds, smells, tastes, and sensations becomes dull and remote. Even the person who offers sympathy appears alien and out of reach. We feel cut off and adrift. To stop and pay attention to what is happening in the moment is one way of snapping out of such fixations. It is also a reasonable definition of meditation. I love this book and I could keep reading, but we're going to stop and have our guided meditation. Does anyone feel like any of the lights in the room need to be turned down? You feel free to lower any lights. And the temperature's okay? Is the candle smell bothering you? Okay. All right.
What was the name of that book?
Buddhism Without Beliefs. So, the main thing when we meditate is we are noticing. That's our only job, just to notice our experience. And when we get pulled away, like he was talking about in that little excerpt, we just come back. And we do it without beating ourselves over the head or judging or making any assumptions about what it means that our mind wandered or drifted away, or getting stuck in any spiral of it'll never stop, or I can't stop my mind, or it's, whatever it's doing. If we get caught up in judging it or thinking about what the mind is thinking about, then we're not present anymore. So our job is just so that we can start to do this in our real life off the cushion, to notice what is my experience now. So it doesn't matter whether that's boredom or gratitude or restlessness or impatience or whatever thoughts or feelings or sensations come up, discomfort, whatever that is, we notice that that's just what we're noticing. We're not saying that's all there is and getting merged with it and then going for the ride. But if we do go for the ride, as soon as we notice that we're doing that, we get off the ride and we notice that that stuff is moving past. It's flowing by. Okay? So no matter what your experience is like this evening, it's okay exactly as it is and as it was after you finish. However you perceive your experience, it's fine exactly as it is. Your only job is to notice. And with that, you'll turn your attention to beginning to notice the feeling of the chair beneath you, feeling your presence in the room, feeling the space that you're taking up right now. And as you start to inhabit your body fully, dropping in and being here, following your intention to come here and practice this evening, since you're here, you may as well devote all of your attention to this task. Allow your attention to drift up to begin to notice the top of your head. And whatever you notice there is just fine. You might notice tension or tingling, coolness or warmth, heaviness or tension, or nothing at all. Your only job is to notice what you find there. And as you feel like you've gotten a sense of what the top of your head is like right now, you can begin to shift your attention gently down to notice your face. And you could notice your forehead and your eyes and your mouth and any tension that might be there in those areas. See if you could release the eyes and the forehead. Notice where your tongue is. What happens if you just let it lay loosely, limp in the bottom of your mouth? What do you notice? And just keep noticing any sensations that are there in the face, whatever they may be. And when you feel like you've got a sense where you've noticed everything there in the face, gently shift your attention to begin to notice the sides of your head. And you don't even have to use words. You're just noticing what's the pure experience of that. If you notice tension, you could imagine allowing your ears to drop slightly and see what happens if any tension is released. And notice what that feels like. And there's no need to label it good or bad. You're just seeing if you can have a pure experience of whatever's there. And then as you feel ready, you can gently shift your attention further back to begin to notice the back of your head and the back of your neck. And just noticing what you find there. And sometimes it can be difficult to voluntarily relax the muscles back there, the tension that sometimes is back there. So see if you could just make a request for relaxation. If there's any discomfort or tension there in the back of your head or neck. And then after you make the request, see if you can open yourself to receive any relaxation or release that occurs as a result of that request. And you're just noticing what's there. And as you feel ready, you can release your attention from the back of your head and neck and let it shift to roll down your shoulders, from your neck all the way out to your shoulder joints. Pausing at the joint and letting your attention flow down the tops of your arms. And pausing again at your elbows. Scanning down your forearms. Pausing attention at the wrist. And then scanning the rest of the length of your hand, from the palm of your hand all the way to the tips of your fingers. and noticing what your shoulders and arms feel like right now in this moment and in each successive moment. Knowing what it feels like 1 second does not ensure that we will know what it feels like later. So you're just being curious and paying attention, noticing what's it like right now, and right now, and now, and just remembering that whatever you find in your shoulders, arms, or hands is fine exactly as it is. You could notice heaviness or tingliness, coolness or warmth, tiredness, achiness, whatever's there. It's just fine as it is. And when you feel like you've got a good sense of your shoulders, arms, and hands, you can start to shift your attention to the core of your body. First, scanning down the front and noticing throat, chest, belly. And then scanning the back, noticing your upper back, middle back, your lower back. And just noticing what it feels like in the core of your body. You could ask for relaxation in the area in the back if there's any tension. Or in the front of your body, you might notice tension, and you could imagine a loosening in the throat area, a softening of the belly. And notice an opening in the heart area that makes it feel more spacious just by imagining. And then just notice what that's like. If there are any shifts or release of tension in your core, you could notice and perhaps appreciate whatever that shift is. And when you feel like you've got a good sense of what the core of your body feels like this evening, you can start to notice your legs, starting from where you feel yourself sitting in the chair, and scanning across the tops of your upper leg and the back sides of your upper leg. Just noticing, pausing at your knees, and then letting gravity pull your attention down the fronts of your shins, and the backs of your calves. Pausing when you reach the floor to notice your ankles and heels, and letting your attention run the length of your foot all the way to the tips of your toes. And you're just noticing what your legs feel like. It's the actual felt experience of your legs, not what your mind tells you. You're finding out for yourself. And then when you feel like you've got a good sense of whatever's going on inside your legs, you can gently pull your attention back up and begin to notice that there's breathing happening without trying to change it or force it to be deeper. You're just noticing breathing is happening, breathing in and breathing out without any effort on your part. Breathing just happens. Notice breathing in the cool air, rising and falling of chest and belly. Breathing out, and the air is warmer as it exits. You might notice some sensation in the throat of movement of air. Notice the pause at the end of your out breath. Notice what happens if you linger there just for a millisecond. And gently, slowly start to let in awareness of other things happening alongside your breath in the present moment. So there are sounds in the room, sounds outside the room, and you might notice temperature or the feeling of your clothes on your body or your shoes. Or you might notice restlessness or coolness or warmth or thoughts. And you don't have to get carried away with whatever the thoughts think. You can just notice, oh, thinking is also happening in the present moment. Anything that's happening in the present moment is fine for your mind to notice, to pay attention to. You're just noticing what's here now, no matter what that is. As a way of helping yourself notice what's here now, you can introduce this question into your meditation space. You can ask, what happens if I allow everything to be as it is in this moment? What if I'm not struggling against anything in this moment? What would that be like? What's the experience of that? What if I let go of the controller, the one who's trying to get it right? What if I even let go of the meditator, the one who's heard about meditation, who has ideas about what meditation is supposed to be like? What if I even let go of that? What's that like? And if thoughts come, try to carry you away, you can just notice there's thought. You don't have to think about what the thoughts are thinking. You just keep coming back and remembering. All I'm doing is noticing what's here right now. And just conducting this little experiment. What happens if I allow everything to be as it is in this moment? What's it like if I'm not in opposition to anything in this moment? And you can introduce the question as often as you need to. Am I really allowing everything to be as it is? Am I truly and deeply allowing everything to be as it is in this moment? What would be the experience of that? And anything that you notice is just part of your experience, just something to notice. And just take one last minute as we reach the end of the meditation. Savor the spaciousness, the silence, the experience of allowing everything to be exactly as it is. Setting an intention to remember that you can introduce this spaciousness, this quiet, anytime. simply by asking the question, what happens if I allow everything to be as it is? And as you feel ready, you can begin to send some energy into your arms and legs, and some movement into your fingers and toes. And take as much time as you need to transition out of your meditation space. So nice to be with you all this evening. Namaste.
Namaste.